Brad Renfro's story starts in a place far from Hollywood's glitz, Knoxville, Tennessee, where he was born on July 25, 1982, under circumstances that already set him apart. His mother, Angela Olson McCrory, struggled with heroin addiction. His father, Mark Renfro, was a factory worker, often away from home. The marriage cracked under the weight of their problems, and the couple divorced when Brad was just 2. It was a messy affair that left a fractured family in its wake. While the father drifted in and out, the mother was in no shape to care for a young child. The boy ended up with his grandmother, Joanne Renfro, who lived in a modest trailer park at the edge of Knoxville's suburbs. She wasn't wealthy or well-connected. She was just a strong-willed woman determined to raise her grandson in the best way she could, planting seeds of faith and discipline. But in truth, life was hard and the environment was rough. Even in those early years, you could sense a restlessness in Brad that his grandmother struggled to keep in check. He was bright, lively, and had a quick, disarming grin, but he also had a streak of rebellion that sometimes flared up as petty mischief. By the time he turned 5, Brad had already endured more upheaval than many kids see in a lifetime. Growing up in that trailer meant he was on a first-name basis with hardship, be it financial stress or the emotional fallout of his parents' absence. Nevertheless, people who knew him back then talked about his magnetic personality, a mischievous twinkle in his eye, an easy sense of humor, and an uncanny ability to charm adults. Sometimes after school, he'd run around the trailer park, scuffing his sneakers in the gravel, hollering jokes at friends, or practicing guitar chords he'd learned from neighbors. The guitar was a cheap second-hand piece, but he loved it anyway. He'd strum out half-formed melodies, dreaming of playing in a band someday. At age 11, he was discovered by Molly Finn, a casting director searching for raw, authentic talent for the film adaptation of John Grisham's The Client. Legend has it she spotted Brad among a group of local kids, saw something mesmerizing in his manner, the self-assured slouch, a hint of defiance in his eyes, and a certain vulnerability just beneath the surface. She pitched him to director Joel Schumacher, who took one look at this scrappy Southern kid with a soulful gaze and decided, that's our Mark's way. The movie, The Client, 1994, would go on to become a box office success. Critics and audiences fell for Brad's unpolished naturalism. He was just 11 years old, but he held his own alongside Susan Sarandon and Tommy Lee Jones, projecting a fierce intelligence and a gritty realism that many seasoned actors struggle to convey. Overnight, he was the new Hollywood wonder child. The sudden wave of fame astonished Brad's grandmother, who tried to keep him grounded. She accompanied him to movie sets and premieres, but the behind-the-scenes reality was jarring. Here was a kid from a trailer park in East Tennessee, thrust into a world of limousines, 5-star hotels, and red carpets. Industry insiders praised his raw talent, pegging him as the next big thing. Yet at 12, 13, 14, how does a kid handle that kind of adoration, that sudden onslaught of adult temptations? The studio system offered him little guidance once the cameras weren't rolling. His grandmother did her best, but a Hollywood machine doesn't slow down to accommodate the emotional needs of a child star. In the next few years, Brad landed roles in high-profile films, Sleepers, 1996, starring alongside Brad Pitt and Robert De Niro, Apt Pupil, 1998, with Ian McKellen, Bully, 2001, directed by Larry Clark in a style that unflinchingly portrayed teen violence. Renfro's skill for portraying troubled, intense youths was striking, but it came at a price. Again and again, he was cast as a kid struggling with moral ambiguity, violence, or heartbreak, typecasting that mirrored a reality he was perilously close to living. The stardom gave him money and a measure of independence, but it also opened doors to nightlife, older crowds, and easy access to substances. By 15, he'd had his first brush with the law, a drug possession arrest, reportedly cocaine, that made minor headlines. Suddenly, that promising boy from the client was pegged as a Hollywood bad boy. The tabloids ate it up, splashing his mugshot across gossip columns. Studios that once lined up to hire him started to regard him as a liability. But Brad was still just a teen, grappling with an addict mother and an absentee father. That brand of heartbreak runs deep, and he found solace in the very substances that threatened his future. In 2000, at just 18, another bizarre incident occurred. In Florida, he was caught trying to steal a yacht. It sounded more like a teenage prank gone haywire, but legally, it was a serious crime. Police reports indicated alcohol was involved. The press ridiculed him for it. "Child star gone wild," they screamed. Each time he tripped up, the tabloids circled like vultures. Meanwhile, those close to him said he was still a sweet, funny kid whenever he was sober. On set, he remained a consummate actor, plunging into roles wholeheartedly. Larry Clark, who directed him in Bully, described him as heartbreakingly talented, a raw nerve of emotion, but the chaos off-screen overshadowed these compliments. He tried rehab several times, first in 2001 after Bully wrapped. He swore to friends that he would get clean, that he wanted to harness his gifts and break away from the destructive cycle. But sobriety never lasted long. He'd do well for a few weeks or months, then slip back into old patterns. People in the industry tried to give him second chances, remembering the brilliance of that 11-year-old phenom. But each time, the relapses and legal issues grew more dire. By 2005, at age 23, he was arrested on Skid Row in Los Angeles, attempting to purchase heroin. That was the turning point. The once-adored child star now paraded in front of cameras as a cautionary tale about underage stardom gone wrong. His personal life was equally tumultuous. He fathered a son, Yamato, in 2003 with a woman from Japan. For reasons never fully disclosed, Yamato was raised in Japan, and Brad had minimal contact with him. That fact gnawed at him. He talked about wanting to be a good father, but his drug dependency kept sabotaging those plans. In 2007, after yet another stint in rehab, he claimed to be clean. He began living with his girlfriend in Los Angeles, telling friends he was serious about turning his life around. He visited old buddies in Knoxville, including his cousin Jesse Hasek, the lead singer of the band 10 Years, saying he felt re-energized and eager to return to music and acting. For a while, it seemed like maybe, just maybe, he was on the mend. Then came January 2008. Brad flew back to LA, reconnected with some questionable acquaintances, and soon started using again. On January 14th, he partied heavily at a local bar. Reports mentioned heavy drinking, possibly cocaine, possibly heroin. Witnesses said he looked dangerously out of it, rambling about wanting to feel alive. Sometime after 1 a.m. on January 15th, he returned to his apartment at 1000 South Ogden Drive with a small group of friends and continued to indulge. The rumor is he combined heroin with cocaine, a speedball, the same lethal mix that felled John Belushi. By 4 a.m., friends saw him nod off on the couch. They assumed he was just crashing from a long night. No one realized how silent and shallow his breathing had become. By 9 a.m., his girlfriend tried to wake him, only to find him cold, his lips blue, no heartbeat. She dialed 911 at 9:06 a.m. Panicked. Paramedics arrived 6 minutes later, attempting CPR, but it was futile. He was pronounced dead at 9:35 a.m., just 25 years old. Another lost boy of Hollywood, undone by narcotics. The news rattled an industry already numb from repeated tragedies involving child actors. The media pounced. Dead at 25, the client star's final act. People pointed out the parallels to other stars who'd crashed young, River Phoenix, Corey Haim. The question on everyone's mind was how such a bright light could fade so quickly. Los Angeles County Coroner's Office confirmed the cause of death on February 8, 2008, acute heroin intoxication, complicated by methadone and alcohol in his system. The official line was accidental overdose, but to those who loved him, it was the grim conclusion to a long, painful dance with addiction. The methadone presence indicated that Brad might have been trying to stave off withdrawal from heroin, but combined with more heroin and booze, it was a lethal synergy. The heartbreak only intensified when his grandmother, Joanne, died 17 days after him, some say from sheer grief. She had been his rock, the person who believed in him most. It was as if her heart simply couldn't cope with the loss. On January 22, 2008, his family and close friends held a funeral service at Red House Cemetery in Blaine, Tennessee. They laid him to rest in a small, unassuming plot. The press was mostly barred, respecting a shred of privacy for a family that had endured more than its fair share of public scrutiny. The scene was somber. Some wore black t-shirts emblazoned with photos of young Brad, that defiant grin from his early movie days. His cousin Jesse Hasek quietly mentioned that Brad had wanted to collaborate on some music projects, a dream that now felt painfully out of reach. In the months after his passing, an outpouring of tributes emerged from unexpected corners. Mark Foster of the band Foster the People confessed that his song Downtown was partially inspired by memories of Brad, the friend who often crashed on his couch strumming a guitar or reading from a battered copy of Charles Bukowski. The band 10 Years, fronted by Jesse, recorded the track Wasteland, echoing the darkness and regret swirling around Brad's decline. Online message boards lit up with fans recalling how they'd discovered him as a kid in the client, only to watch his career unravel with each headline. His final film, The Informers, 2008, was released posthumously, featuring him in a small role as a creepy drifter. By then, the once promising star had become more of a cautionary footnote, overshadowed by the hype for bigger names in the cast. Still, those who saw it couldn't help but note the flicker of vulnerability in his eyes, a poignant final reminder of the layered performer he once was. Yet in the end, maybe the purest memory of Brad Renfro isn't the cautionary headlines or the tearful tributes. It's the image of a scrappy 11-year-old from Knoxville stepping onto a film set for the first time, brimming with untrained talent, looking around at the lights, cameras, and chaos with a half grin that said, "I'm here and I'm ready." In that moment, he was unstoppable, a child touched by the promise of art, unburdened by adult vices. That moment, fleeting as it was, remains a testament to what he could have been, and for a short time truly was, a raw, luminous presence who gave everything he had to the roles he played. When we talk about Brad Renfro now, it's with the knowledge that behind every Hollywood success story, there can be deep-rooted pain. It's with the realization that child actors face obstacles most of us can't fathom, that addiction can strike even the most promising among us, and that the line between teenage stardom and adult tragedy can be perilously thin. Yet we also honor the fact that for a few years, he made us believe in the humanity of every damaged kid he portrayed on screen. His legacy, overshadowed, though it may be by scandal and heartbreak, still includes moments of genuine cinematic brilliance, moments that remind us that real talent, raw and unvarnished, sometimes flickers out too soon but leaves an afterglow that lingers in the collective consciousness, urging us never to forget the face of a boy who once showed us the best of what he could be, even if it couldn't last.